that I take several classes for fun and for educational purposes. And that one of the classes that I take from time to time are classes in animal communication. And this is about intuition. It's not about anything occult. So, and again, if you're not interested in this topic or other topics, that's why there's millions of choices on YouTube. You don't need to watch this. But I am bringing on somebody whose class that I'm going to be starting on Saturday. I wish I had told you sooner because this might be something you're interested in. But if not, just enjoy the kind of things that she does. And she's actually, I think, been on the show before. And I've had several animal communicators on before, believe it or not. I've had Lydia Hibby. So it's not like just one person does this, but not everybody teaches classes. And her class that starts Saturday, I love the name. It's called Becoming Dr. Doolittle. And I loved that movie growing up so much, much more than the replay. And Charles and I will be taking that because it's a perfect time. It's Saturdays from 12 to 1, and that is my dedicated lunch hour. So this is going to be great because I never book anybody then. So please welcome to the show, Elizabeth Lee. How you doing?
Oh, hi, AJ. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing great, thank you. And I feel so honored that you're having your lunch break with me.
Called lunch break with Elizabeth. Yeah. So before we get into what you do as an animal communication, Zen says that I took an animal communication class a bit ago. Did you like it, Zen? Because I've taken several, and I've taken with other people, and I just think they're really, really fun because they just, I think, foster a greater bond with your pet, and just you learn amazing tools. So before we talk about the class, maybe talk about what your work is. What is animal communication? Because it's not anything occult. It's not devil's work. It's really, my understanding is that animals communicate, but without words, and that it's just a way to, like, kind of almost like visualization, find out what they're thinking and feeling. And I think it's really fun. And Gina's saying, I would love to communicate better with my dogs. And who wouldn't? Because I always say, if I had one wish, it would be like, just speak English, just one day, just like even 10 minutes, and just tell me everything. And then I would be so happy. And Tracy says, I love Elizabeth's classes. So talk about what is animal communication? How does one become an animal communicator? And what kind of people might want the services of yourself or someone else maybe in their area if they're interested?
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I think that anyone who's an animal lover, and you are the best animal advocate out there, thank you for all the work you do. Anyone who's an animal lover can do this. I think that it's a natural ability for humans. It's just something that we don't talk about or think about as much as we could, although it's getting much more mainstream. I've been doing this I'm in my 8th year now, and a lot more people know what it is. There are a lot more courses out there. But you're absolutely right. The animal communication is basically using your telepathic skills. And we all use telepathy without realizing it. And the animals pick it up very, very easily and quickly. They feel your emotions, so that's one way they know what's going on with you. But if you visualize something very clearly in your mind and you send it to them in a little bubble and have it land on them, they will most likely pick up the meaning that you have behind that. And that's the very fundamental basics of animal communication. And I think that it's really important that we have groups where we can learn this and practice it. Because learning yourself just from reading a book, being in your own world with your own pet is very challenging. But I love teaching this course because we get a community together with lots of support, and we practice on each other's animals. And it's much easier to learn with another animal than the one that is in your home because you're so close to them. People just doubt themselves. So we practice with other people's animals, and it's just a really joyful, fun community experience.
I used to love it when I lived in LA. Lydia Hibby would teach monthly classes at the Pasadena Humane Society.
Right.
And they wouldn't have anything that was that weird. This was a humane society. And we would bring our pets. And like you say, the fun part was talking to everybody else's pet, because there's no way you could know the things. If it wasn't real, how would we be able to ascertain their medical conditions and what their houses look like? Because nobody shared anything except for the pet's name and the pet's age, and that was it. And then after we learned the skills, and it was just so much fun.
Yeah, I like to keep it really lighthearted because it's our own doubt that will stop us the most. But if we can be really lighthearted about it and remember that it's actually a really natural tendency to do this, and we're probably doing it without realizing it, that makes it a lot more easy. So,
I
yeah.
bet you kids would be really good at this because they don't have any preconceived judgments about that it's weird to talk to pets.
Yes, I think so too. And unfortunately, I haven't had any kids in my classes, but I'm waiting for that day, AJ. It'll be so fun.
Right. And it's not just for people that have dogs. It could be a fish, an iguana, a cat, a llama. It's all the same. It doesn't matter the species, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we have people joining too who don't have pets. They just feel a calling to learn and practice that skill. So it doesn't matter. I don't have pets in my home, and this is how I engage with other people's pets. So we also will be talking about nature and the elements of nature and connecting with rocks and trees and rivers and things like that in one of our modules. So it's all about nature and wildlife as well.
We certainly need to connect more to nature now because we're basically destroying our planet. And I'm sure if we would listen, nature is trying to tell us something with all these fires and things like that. Diane has a really good question. Can our fur babies tell us when it's time to let them go?
Yes, this is one of the parts of my work that I think is most valuable, is when people call me when their animal's in decline to help understand how they're feeling, what level of pain they're in, and how they feel about and what their desire is with the timing of the event, with getting help or not getting help. That's very powerful, and the animals, they never don't have an opinion about it. So I guess the answer to that question is yes. They always can share in that process, and then it becomes something that you're doing together with them rather than putting something over them that you're not sure if they're ready for, or it's too soon or too late. And so many of my clients share with me their sadness over past experiences at that time, feeling like, oh, I let them stay too long and I worry that they suffered too much, or maybe it was too quick and it wasn't time yet. So I can also connect with those animals in spirit to help look back on those memories and sort of reevaluate from their perspective what happened. And that's very powerful.
They don't seem to be as scared about death as we are they? They're much more accepting of everything, whether it's a physical condition. They're so much better.
They have a lot of wisdom. I mean, not all of them, but it's like people. There's a continuum of all of that, of course. But in general, I found a lot of wisdom comes through. And sometimes if the personality of the pet is really wrapped up in the illness or pain or something else, and they're just kind of not very present, I'll just connect with his or her higher self and try to get a higher perspective on what's happening and how we can support them through that.
I just want to take a moment, Scared Bailey, to thank Supercharged Plant-Based Lifestyle for the wonderful super chat donation and comment. Thank you for your work. I really appreciate that. And we're going to talk to Bailey in a minute. I'm going to have Elizabeth talk to Bailey, but a few more questions. Diane says, do you believe that animals cross over?
Absolutely. I've had many, many animals show to me what their experience was like when they crossed over. And it's a beautiful thing to hear about and feel about. And more often than not, when I'm connecting to an animal in spirit and the person wants to know what it was like for them, the animal would just share energy with us both that is palpable. The room changes, I get goosebumps, I can feel light energy dropping in from the animal spirit, and it's very, very powerful. So yeah, in my experience, every time I've seen that, I've never felt any animal's soul getting stuck, like we talk about with humans being stuck and not moving toward the light. That's never something that I've come across in my practice.
Well, LJ says, I love Elizabeth. What a beautiful soul. I think anybody that works with animals has to be a special person. So, are there ever any pets or animals in general that just don't want to talk to you and just like talk to the paw? I'm not sharing anything with you, lady. I don't know you and I don't want you in my business.
People ask me that all the time. Of course, yes, there have been a handful of times where the animal's a little reluctant or a little quiet. I think only maybe once or twice I've literally, in my mind's eye, seen the animal turn. Like this isn't going to happen. But in cases like that, in all fairness, I'll just keep talking with the person. I'll keep connecting with the pet and explaining who I am and why we're there. And eventually, after a few minutes, things open up, and everybody's always come through with conversation for me. Nobody's ever stayed radio silent the whole time. Doesn't happen.
Funny. Do you know Heidi?
Heidi. I know of
Heidi
Hendler. Oh, I love Heidi Hendler.
Yeah, well, she said the same about you. It's funny. It's a small world that I know her from somewhere else, and she knows you, and then we all know each other.
I love that.
Oh, Joyce says there's a veterinarian in her area called Dr. Doolittle. That is so cool.
Oh, fun.
Well, he said it in the movie. That movie was, I think, 1960 something. He said everyone can talk to the animals.
Yes, he planted a seed, didn't he?
Okay, so I don't know if you can talk to the people. You're going to talk to Bailey. I don't know if you can talk to the people that are watching without knowing or seeing, but maybe in general, Supercharged Plant-Based Lifestyle says, what can she say about grumpy cats? My mom's cat is very grumpy. I would ask if her mother is grumpy, because I always, and I'm not saying she is, but I always often find that pets are often like their owners. And I hate the word owners, not handlers. Guardians, because owners sounds like we don't own them. If anything, they own us. But
Yes. Yeah. Grumpy pets. It always makes me sad to me.
He says her mom is not grumpy.
Oh, okay. Well, pets are like people. They've got different kinds of personalities and temperaments, and sometimes they just come in, with a certain personality, and that's how they are. But sometimes if a cat looks grumpy from the outside, doesn't necessarily mean that they feel grumpy on the inside. Maybe that's just how their face is or their body is. So I guess I'd want to find out for myself by talking to them and see what's going on, or if that's something we're projecting on them, because it's very, very easy to project our feelings on our pets.
You do readings on the phone, right? And they're like, I guess, like 15, you can do 15-minute increments. I'll post your website, but isn't that how it works? Something like that?
Yeah, I do sessions on Zoom or over the phone on a conference line. So both ways can be recorded for people to listen in later. And the sessions are either 30 minutes or 60 minutes. If it's an ongoing client and they just need a quick check-in, I can do a 15-minute, but if it's a new person, you really need more than 15 minutes. And if it's more than one pet, we really need an hour to give them both their time and their turn. Because sometimes, just like in a conversation or in therapy, it takes time for these things to come forward. I mean, some animals are very, very expressive and so good at communicating, the words come in really quick. But the relationship develops over time, and you just can't rush that. So half an hour is really the minimum for a new pet.
And I would say, and I don't do this to the degree you do, but if the cat was always grumpy, it might be its personality. But if it started being grumpy, maybe it has something like a pain issue or something that needs to be addressed. That would just be my first thought. This is a really interesting, I never thought of this, Maya. Thank you for this comment. Because this is, I always think about COVID and how it's affecting in different ways, sometimes positive, many times negative. But she says she recently had a dear friend who had a dog pass away, took him to the hospital during the pandemic. He'd not been well for about 3 days. She was not allowed to go in. And I know that from my appointment yesterday. An hour later, her dog passed. It broke her heart. Wonder why he passed so quickly after being away from her for a short time. But, I never thought about that for people that do have to, unfortunately, euthanize their pets now. We can't even be with them. That is just, I never thought about that till today. So thank you, Maya. It's sad.
Really sad. It's really sad. I always suggest that if people can, to have a vet come to their home. But even in COVID, I don't know how many vets are doing that. So it makes it so much more difficult right now to have treatment at the vet. Some people have to leave their pet at the vet in the morning and then come back, 5 hours later for them. And it's really a difficult situation. I just hope it clears up soon and comes back to normal so that taking care of them is not so heartbreaking. And I'm so sorry that your pet passed so quickly. That can be really shocking, and that's very difficult. So I really love working with people whose animals have passed, and we just do some counseling work really to help move the grief along and help reconnect with the spirit of the animal. And I think that's really powerful and helpful for people.
Yeah, and I'm going to be, and again, it's like people say, well, don't you like this vinegar? Yeah, I can have more than one brand of vinegar, even though I love California balsamic. I sometimes eat other flavors. I'm going to be having another animal communicator on named Teresa Wagner, who's specifically going to talk about dealing with pet grief sometime in the future. And this is a specialty I like, just like I take more than one art class. And that's why, people resonate with different people, but it's just something that I've always been interested in. And I was really impressed, like my very first animal communication class, my veterinarian was there. So, I mean, he went to Davis. So like if, people like that are believing in it. It's funny because I can't talk about the celebrities I work for because I cook for lots of them in LA because you sign these non-disclosure agreements. So I can't tell you who they are, but I can tell you all of them went to animal communicators, always. So,
Wow.
and a lot of the ones went to the ones that I recommended. So it's not as like out there as some of the other things that I'm also into, which, by the way, if you understand Dr. Lyle's talk about personality, I am very open to things. So that's why
Me
I like to
too.
do things rather than just always talk about diet and nutrition, although that's my passion or that's my profession. Other things are more my passion. So Diane says, have you ever dealt with animals that aren't necessarily domesticated, like cows, for example?
Yes, I have a client who has a big farm in Virginia, and she has amazing, beautiful Highland cattle and horses and sheep, and we talk to all of them, and it's really fun. It's just as fun, just as beautiful. They have just as many wonderful, interesting messages. Um, it's lovely, everything with consciousness, every being with consciousness, every sentient being we can communicate with. So it's especially fun, I think, to branch out and talk to animals that we wouldn't necessarily think about.
Right. Just excuse me for changing subjects for 1 minute because I see Michael, I hope I pronounced your last name right, Leger is watching. And he was watching the show with Robin Chutkin, Dr. Chutkin, and I didn't address your question to her because it was very, very specific, but you had asked about telehealth. And on Monday, I have a gastroenterologist named Dr. Vanessa Mendez, who is part of the Institute of Plant-Based Medicine. Although she is in Florida, she can do a consult for people with specific GI conditions. So tune in Monday if you'd like to get to know her. So S says, my cat doesn't like to be held unless she's choosing to be there. How can you communicate if she's in a different room than I am?
All my communicating is with pets in a different room. So it's really easy. It doesn't matter. Time and space when you're doing this work doesn't matter. Our consciousness connects to that consciousness with our intention. So I'm sorry she doesn't like you holding her. I've had clients with that issue before, and it's just their personality and how they feel in their body, and it could have to do with not having a lot of lifetimes of being a cuddly animal that's domestic in the house, and they're just coming from a different space with that. So patience is all I can say about that one. But yeah, you don't have to be in the same room. You don't have to be in the same country. They can be asleep. Often when I'm working with animals, I'm also running energy work on them and Reiki on them if they're not feeling well. And time and again, people tell me, oh my gosh, my animal is completely knocked out on the floor next to me. Like they went to sleep and they're in a deep, deep trance because they love the energy work because they can feel it and they're very receptive to it. No matter if you're in England and I'm in the USA, that's how it happens. It's pretty magical.
Carol says, have you ever communicated with animals at a farm sanctuary? And if you have, I'm wondering if I should gift Renee from Rowdy Girl Sanctuary a session with you, because it sounds to me like there's some past life connection or something, the way that calf made her go vegan. It just was really, really an
Yeah,
amazing story.
that's a beautiful story. I haven't worked at an animal rescue per se. The one that is near us in LA, the Gentle Barn, they have another animal communicator on staff, so they're all set with her. But being at that sanctuary is what actually triggered my desire to do animal communication. So I have a big spot in my heart for animal sanctuaries, and when I was young, I wanted to have one of my own. That was a big dream of mine. Which hasn't happened because I'm allergic. but
Oh my God.
but I love sanctuaries.
Wow. That's just crazy. Can't you get some help for those allergies? That's just so sad.
It's I don't know. It's one of those big mysteries in my life.
Can you get a fish or a bird, or is it everything?
I've had fish for a long time, yeah, but birds I can't have.
Oh,
I feel too sad having a bird in a cage, honestly.
yeah.
But I have had fish for years, and I love them.
Yep. Supercharged Plant-Based Lifestyle says that's so cool. She is a bridge between pets and owners, kind of like a mediator, if you will, in a way.
Completely. Mm-hmm.
So here's a funny comment from Diane. Her dog seems to like her husband more. Why is that? Well, we'd have to have a session and ask the dog.
It's just like people, they have preferences, and they also have different soul contracts with different members of the family. So I guess the key is to try not to be jealous about it and let them do their thing because that's what they're here to do. But just like people, they can be like siblings that don't get along. I get a lot of calls for, oh my gosh, my kitten, my older cat is not letting the kitten in the house and we need to help. And so we do a lot of navigating around personalities and helping them get along better and readjust better. But their preferences for people is just part of their soul contract and their personality. There isn't much we can do about that.
Zen says, I have a question. I'm sensitive and I have had animals and humans that have passed come to me in dreams. Do you do that?
Yeah. After my kitty Cleo died, I had an amazing dream where I was in an outdoor amphitheater, sitting on the top row with her next to me. And at the bottom was a giant screen of her life, her whole life with me. And she said, "You loved me so well." And that was like her life review, but I was present for it. And it was so touching and moving. It's one of the things that got me started in doing this. But yeah, coming in through dreams is one of the easier ways that humans can feel them. So they choose to do that often to come and let you know that they're still there and part of your life.
I love when they come to me and it's like, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, Scooby's still alive. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, he's not. But it's just the best when they do that. That is the coolest.
Yeah.
S says, is the coronavirus an animal or lots of animals that you can communicate with?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question of, is the coronavirus an animal? It's a virus or lots of animals. Maybe S means like the animal that transmitted it. Could you clarify your question, S, and we'll go on to the next one from Maya, who says, I've noticed that when I'm at a park and barefoot, squirrels and ducks are drawn to me. I also believe in grounding. Do you know if they can pick up on my grounding? And then we're going to talk to Bailey.
Yeah. Hi, Bailey. The animals are so sensitive to our energy field. They're very good at feeling if we're anxious, if we're scared, if we're calm, if we're grounded, if we're nervous. They pick it up. It's just, I think it's something that we all do, but you and I don't talk about it that much, but the animals do it naturally. So yeah, I think that when you're at the park and you're barefoot and grounded and feeling good out there, they feel safe around you and will come closer because they're just as curious about us as we are about them. That's what I found out swimming with wild dolphins in Hawaii was they were so interested in us and so playful with us and came right up to us and wanted to be with us just as much as we wanted to be with them.
Oh, that's great. Diane says, do you think dogs grieve the loss of their human? When my husband died, they looked for him for a long time.
Yeah, of course they do. And it's so sad and hard. And I really like talking to animals who are going through this. It often happens in a household with, say, a few different pets. One passes and the client will call me and tell me about how depressed the other ones are. So how we work with that is have them talk about it, have me explain exactly what happened. And also, I work a lot with flower essences and recommend different companies that make flower essences to help animals in a lot of different ways. But one of the main ways is grief and loss. And these flower essences are very subtle medicines, all natural, that can really help your nervous system adjust to changes. So that can help with grief. But yeah, they feel it and they go through it just like we do. And they also will feel it from you too.
Mary Miss says, I've had to put down my Boston Terrier and have not been able to overcome his death. That maybe working with someone like you or another grief specialist could help her.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. I know
Sorry.
it's so hard. It's so hard to get past. And I've worked with people in my classes in person before COVID. I would work a lot with grief with people, and people would talk about pets from their childhoods that they hadn't thought of for 30 years, but they still hold that really deep sadness about them. And it's a big thing, and I'd be happy to help you process that. That's some of the work that I think is most important and that I enjoy the most too.
Yeah, Elizabeth helped me once with a dog that wasn't my own, that was neglected and abused here and then run over by a car that we took to the vet and then ended up losing. And it was just like, it was one of the hardest things because we were dealing with abuse. And I remember I was like crying in bed. Hey, don't go away. You gotta be she knew her time was coming up.
She's getting
oh my God, now I'm getting ready. You can't leave. Come on. She wants to talk to you. This is hilarious. I was just getting ready to ask her, but I want to read this funny comment by Janelle. Don't judge. Bailey, come here. My therapist knew my anger classes were working when my cat willingly wanted to sit on my lap. That's adorable.
Oh, that's great. They're great barometers of how we're doing.
Oh, okay, Bailey.
There she is.
I don't know if you can see this, but we didn't want to go to the vet because of COVID. I don't know if you can, Bailey, come on. I'm trying because the Zoom's not coming. I don't know if you can see this, but she's bloated, kind of like a person with IBS. So we went to the vet yesterday. He ran some labs, and the only thing he can find was elevated pancreatic enzymes. Urine, blood, everything else, thyroid, liver, everything was normal. And it didn't hurt at all to palpate her, and so he's recommending an ultrasound. And, because he says that they're more precise than an x-ray, he doesn't know without that. And so, of course, I'm going to do what the vet says, but, I'm worried because she's gained a little bit of weight and she's voraciously hungry now, whereas in the past she's been a picky eater. So, I'm a catastrophizer. So like already she's got cancer in my mind. I mean, God forbid, but I'm wondering is there anything you can do to tell me that, why she's bloated all the time? Because she doesn't get it's not like she'd get a period. She's, spayed. And so, but if she was a human, we would say, oh, wow, your abdomen's distended, like you have IBS or SIBO. So anyway,
yeah,
that's what mommy's worried about now. So she's scheduled for the 21st for an ultrasound. And I'm assuming I should go through with it because,
I would.
She doesn't seem really to be too upset about it. I mean, she's licking me, but
yeah. So I'm just going to take a second to tune in and hear from her what she can tell me about that. She's not in any pain from it, AJ. She said it feels weird, like there's an extra thing on me, like there's an extra empty thing on me. She said it affects how she walks a little bit, and she thinks it's kind of funny. So I'm just letting her know that we don't know what it is exactly, and that you're going to have another procedure at the vet, so she knows that's coming up and that it won't hurt, and that we'll find out what it is and give her treatment. She said, okay, well, I'm not really worrying about that right now. she's not worried about it, and it's not painful to her.
I
So
worry
that's
though,
very
because not knowing what it is. I mean, is it a tumor on the liver or I mean, I don't know, because
right.
I worry anyway all the time. That's just the way I'm wired. And Dr. Lau says that's my personality. So
I'm with you. I'm that way too, AJ. And I'm sorry. I want to develop more medical intuitive skills so that I can help people more specifically with these situations. But unless I feel it in my body or I'm shown something really specific, which I'm not being shown at this moment, I can't really say exactly what that is.
but you're telling me from her perspective, it's not bothering her. So
Right.
oh boy. Well, it's funny. The first time we had a reading with Elizabeth, and we didn't even know each other. Basically, I was referred by Myra, who's actually, if you're in FFOF, was the success story last week. And she said, "Oh, I had my Greyhound read, or she's great." And I'm like, "Sure, I'll have a reading." And so she didn't know anything about me at the time. We didn't know each other. She didn't know anything about Bailey. And the first thing she said was so true. She goes, "Well, Bailey likes to supervise your activities, and if you were at my house, you would know that is it's like she has a job. The way I can't explain it, but like when we go to work, like Charles and I each have our office, and then like if he's doing something in his office and she's on this chair, it's as if she's our boss. It's like and I can't explain it, but that's exactly the right word. It's like she really does supervise all our activities. It's hilarious. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really sweet.
Yeah. So tell us about the class. How often do you run it? What's it like? What's the curriculum? And who would maybe like to take a class like this? Are the modules
Sure.
available after if you miss them? Tell us how it works. Because
Okay.
I'm in it, by the way, guys. And Charles isn't actually in it, but he's going to be sitting next to me and we're going to be eating lunch. So that's what I love about these Zoom classes is, back in the day, taking an in-person class, everybody had to pay. But now it's like, you're in the house.
You get it. You
Yeah.
get it. And you get
Yeah.
the recording so you can share it too. I don't want this to be exclusive. I want this to be something everybody does so that everybody can have more connection with their pets and the animals can be happier. And so I just want to spread it around. So the course is 12 weeks. So that's 3 months. It takes us right up until the end of November. So it's a long course because I really want people to explore and expand and rest and not feel rushed and really engage with it and practice it and give each other support. There are 6 different learning modules, and then one week we'll do a learning module, and then the next week is mostly going to be Q&A and talking about what you've been experiencing, trying out what we learned about in the module before. So it's really fun. We talk about the basics, all the tips and tools and everything I've learned and gathered and played with and what's worked for me, just everything I know I'm going to share. I love to share stories and examples, and it's going to be very experiential. So my favorite thing of what developed I've only taught it once before, last year, and this will be the second time. So I'm probably going to teach it probably every year, although it might become a recorded class, not a live class. So this might be my last time live. I'm not completely sure yet. But one thing that developed in the last time we taught was we used volunteers from the people in the class. We used their animals to practice on, and everyone loved that. So, half the class would be devoted to a certain cat, and we'd have her picture and we'd get a little blip of information about her, and everyone would tune in and share what they wanted to share about it. And it was so fun to see different people getting very similar information about the pet, so you get immediate affirmation. So it's 12 weeks. It's about an hour. It starts at noon Pacific, goes for about an hour, and then I send you all the recordings and suggestions for homework. We do some guided exercises, so we go within and do visualization work and stuff like that, and then I do teaching and sharing, and then other people share. People will not be on video on camera. It's set up as a Zoom webinar, so you can raise your hand and talk and ask questions and interact, but you don't have to worry about having your makeup on or having a pretty background, so it's just really easy for people. And there's a Facebook group for it. I have a whole bunch of bonuses with the course that are smaller classes that I've taught. Animal Communication 101, animals as different archetypes, and a grief to gratitude class about getting over the grief from a lost pet. So those are my bonuses, and it's $347 to join, but if you join with a friend, which makes it even more fun, it's only $247. I've had a couple different friend groups come and take it together. It's been really sweet to see that. So that's it. We start on Saturday. I can't wait. AJ, I feel like I'm hosting some big party on Saturday. I'm getting so excited about it. And we have a really nice group. We have under 20 people in the class, so there's a lot of chance for real personal interaction and a sacred community to come from it.
Well, that's amazing, because I didn't know about the join with the friend bonus. That's like $20 a class. I mean, that's like going to a movie, which you can't go to now anyway. I've been really enjoying all the Zoom classes I'm taking. I hope you don't say anything really important the first 5 minutes, because it's going to take me a minute to get off my daily live show at 11, then log on. So if you have anything earth shattering, wait till 12:05 to say, okay, please.
I promise.
All right, thank you. So Lori says, is it merely a myth that, or something in particular, that black cats are timid, shy, and fearful? I know a black cat that's friendliest cat. So.
Yeah, when I met my husband, he had a big black cat with long hair. I just loved him so much, and he wasn't timid or shy. He was like master of the neighborhood. He was like big tough guy. So yeah, that sounds like a generalization. I think there is sometimes a generalization about the cats with different colors, but it only goes so far, and then personalities take over. But I've had a couple of black kitties in my practice, and yeah, no, they're not all shy.
Diane says she thinks that maybe the dog likes the husband more because he's always feeding the dog treats. Well, that could make sense.
That could be, absolutely. That sounds pretty reasonable to me.
What was, in terms of geography, the furthest away animal you've ever talked to?
Oh, other than in spirit?
Yeah, exactly. Like country, maybe. Like.
Oh yeah, England. I have a client in England. That's the farthest away so far.
Right. And what was the most unusual animal you've talked to?
Oh my gosh, good question. I don't get a lot of calls for unusual animals, honestly. I think I've only had like 5 horse calls over 8 years. The rest are dogs and cats. I do have some fish clients, though. I have a beautiful catfish client right now who's old. I think he's 16 or 17 years old. He's a beautiful big catfish. I think he's really interesting. And then, of course, the farm with the cows and the horses and the sheep. Those are pretty interesting too, but mostly really 90% it's cats and dogs.
If people want to follow you on Facebook or Instagram, where's the best place for that? Or do you have a mailing list? Where's the best place for people to?
Sure. My website is my full name, elizabethayerlee.com, and there will be a pop-up inviting you to my newsletter there. I'm also on Facebook, Elizabeth Lee, Animal Intuitive. And also on Instagram, I'm Elizabeth Ayer Lee, Ayer. So I try to be all over. I have a YouTube page as well, also under Elizabeth Lee Animal Intuitive.
Okay, so I just put that's good. I'll put this in the show notes too, as a matter of fact. Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to the class, and I've like I said, I've never taken your class, but I've always had a good time taking anything that has to do with animals. So that's it. Let's see. Gina says, is it true that when a cat blinks while looking straight at you, it's a kiss? I've always wanted a cat, and I've either had a spouse or another dog that didn't allow it. That's like one thing I'm sad that I might live out my life without having had that experience, because they're so awesome. So I don't know. I mean, because I've had cats actually like kiss me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my experience of the slow blink is an expression of love. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think it was my husband that taught me this when I first met him. He used to do that with his cats. He would like look at them and do a really slow blink, and then they would do it back. But if they're doing it just on their own, you have to check in with how you feel when it happens. But to me, it has felt like a love kiss.
Kathy says she lives at an animal sanctuary. Can you talk to an emu?
I would love to talk to an emu. I never have before. It would be really fun. That would be fantastic.
I think I'd love to talk to a peacock, because I just think they're so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
would be so cool. Can you talk? And not that they'd have anything to say, but can you talk to insects, spiders, and scorpions, and snakes? And, well, snakes not an insect, cockroaches. Because
Yeah,
I'm kind of
I
afraid
don't.
of some of
You're
them.
afraid?
Not all
I,
of them, but some of them I am a little bit afraid of these new types of wildlife that we have here. Like these, there was
right.
this wolf spider, and I took a picture of it and put it
Right.
on Facebook, and it was like it like had all these babies on its. I mean, I get scared, and I don't know what. I mean, I have had sessions with Dr. Lyle about it. I don't mean to be so terrified of some of these, but could I learn in your class like to say, hey, look, I'm a little scared, so move.
Absolutely. I think you could. I don't tend to do that a lot in my life. I kind of forget to do that. And honestly, when I'm working with people with their pets, it just flows easier for me because I'm working with people and there's a link between the person and me as well as the pet and me. So when you're working with a spider, they're so foreign that sometimes it's easy for us to block our own minds with being able to do that. But in theory, absolutely, you should be able to. But it's a harder reach for a lot of people than with pets.
Marinus says, do you do parrots? My Quaker Pichu talks a lot. He used to be very sweet until he got lost, and I was able
Oh,
to find him a month later. And after that, he's been mean. I feel guilty for this happening.
oh, wow. That's very interesting. I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, I could talk to parrots. I've talked to birds before, captive birds before. I love the birds. One of the first times I was on an interview show, I was really nervous, and we have wild parakeets around our area, and they all came by and landed right outside my house and started making a huge ruckus. And I was like, "Wow, thank you for coming," because they gave me a message to stand up tall and be loud and be heard for my call, and it was really helpful. So I kind of owe it to the parrots, I
Yeah.
think.
Pat says, do you read pets via Zoom? I've always called her on the
Hmm.
phone, but
Hmm. Yeah, most of my clients now do Zoom because everybody's familiar with it. But yeah, you can choose either Zoom or a conference line.
no, nice.
Hmm.
Let's see. Have you ever talked to an animal or a pet specifically that said, like, I don't really like my human, but like you really, and then would you be able to tell the human that?
Yes, I've had that happen, and it's not an easy phone call. I have a deal with myself that I will share everything that I get. And so when I get stuff like that, I try my very best to couch it as diplomatically and gently as possible. And there have been experiences like that where the animal clearly didn't want to be there, and I had to tell the person, and they found new places for that animal. So sometimes it happens. It's just a reality. It's not my favorite day to have that conversation. But the goal is to have the animal be heard and for things to work out. So sometimes that happens.
That is something. Let's see. I saw a really good question here from Catherine. Please tell us about dogs, their purpose for our lives. I think they teach us how to love. That's what I think
Mm,
they do, or at least that's what they do for me.
that's beautiful. Absolutely. Everybody has different purposes. So that's something that comes up a lot in a longer conversation with a pet. I love asking what the purpose is with that particular person, what their contract is, how they help each other, what their focus is. It's always fun to have those conversations, and love is behind many, many, many of those messages.
That is so cool. Gina says, I wish I had even a molecule of psychic energy. I think everybody's intuitive. It's just that I think we shut it off very early in life.
I agree. I think so too. I think it's part of being human. We can't deny it. It's part of who we are, and it's like a muscle that you get to practice with. And I think it's hard for adults to learn new things or to try new things because we want results really fast. And this is something that's kind of a lifelong journey, and we just get better with time and experience. And so it does take patience. And but I really, really, truly, in my heart, believe everyone can do this.
Yeah, well, that'd be fun. I hope some of you guys will join us in the class. Karen says, my sister's cat doesn't like people. He tolerates my sister, but no one else. She got him when he was 8 weeks old, so she's never understood why he acts that way. The only other person he tolerates is me. Well, maybe you're the only good people in his life, you and your
That's right.
sister. Who knows?
Well, there are a lot of people that don't like other people either, right? I mean, it's so much as their personality. But if there is wiggle room to work with that, we can always talk about where that came from, what that's about, and see if they're interested in having more human friends or not. Just to get their perspective can be really interesting and helpful.
Diane's asking how to sign up for the class, and I'm posting a link right there. I also put it on the show notes. Yes, it's every Saturday for 12 weeks. It starts this Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, which is perfect for me because I always take an hour off every day for lunch from 12 to 1. And if you miss any of the live sessions, they are going to be recorded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
That'd be great. We'd love to have more people join us. The more energy in the class, the more fun it is, and entertaining and back and forth. And I think there's a certain group energy that happens. It's really lovely. I can already feel that kind of energy field settling in for the class. And it's just a very safe, fun, exploratory place. And it's a little like self-care. I mean, the world is so chaotic right now. We just have like a little hour of peace every Saturday together where you can forget everything else and turn off your phone and close your eyes and learn in a really gentle environment. And so it should be nice for people. That's at least my intention for it.
I'm sure it is. Daryl says I have the best guests. Thank you. I try to have, I mean, my rule for being on the show is if I don't like them, they're not real. Now you're going to know, like, oh, so-and-so wasn't on the show. Usually when so-and-so isn't on the show, it's because so-and-so said they don't want to, by the way. So that's why when you guys recommend people to me, I don't go after them anymore because I've had too many bad experiences with people saying, if I wanted to be on your show, I would have asked you. So that's usually the case when it's somebody you recommended. And I don't want to say which doctors and which YouTubers they are, but that's what happens. Like, why don't you have so-and-so? But I do try to have good people that I'd like to sit down and have dinner with. Is the class for all ages? Gina wants to know.
Oh, please. Yes, absolutely. I mean, in general, my client base tends to be people around my age, 50s, 60s. But I certainly have lately gotten some more younger clients, which is really fun in their 20s. I haven't had people that young in my class, but it's for every age. I think that as people kind of have less busy lives, they tend to focus more inward and on spiritual awareness and consciousness. And so in general, my audience is a little bit on the older side, but I think that's just circumstantial, really. So it's for anybody. It's applicable to anybody. I think any age would enjoy it.
You know who I think would love this class is Kathy Fisher, the chef. And I didn't know about the $100 off, so maybe you'll let us lower it because I'm registered, but I didn't know about that because that's a great deal, guys. Take it with a friend, and then they both get $100 off. So I'm going to tell Kathy about this because I know she likes this kind of thing, and she's a big animal lover, specifically cats, and she's always fostering cats. So that would be. I'm going to tell her to take this class with me.
Great.
Barb says, do you have any suggestions for connecting with the feral cats in my neighborhood? I'm feeding them and plan to build a shelter for the coming winter, but as soon as I open my door, they are gone.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is what I share with all my clients. If you want to send a message to your animal, just get still within yourself maybe a little before you open the door and let them know that you're going to be opening the door in half an hour or whatever, and send them a picture of what you would like to happen, like if you'd really like them to be able to stay around so you could check out to make sure they're okay and healthy and things like that. Imagine them staying close and not being afraid, and it's sort of like just beaming out your intention or your message to them. Let them know that, you're there to help them and you would really like to be able to see them more, and just send out your desire and see how they respond to that. But, don't expect it to work the first time. This is something you have to continually build and practice. But that's where I would start. Let them know your intention and that you'd really like for them not to be afraid, and just see if they'll comply just a little bit.
Nice. Can a teenager take the class?
Oh, absolutely. I guess maybe I'd need a sign off from a parent if they're underage, under 18. I haven't come across that yet, but absolutely with the parents, okay. Yeah.
That's nice. Okay, well, this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait for Saturday. I hope to see some of you guys in the class. So that will be really cool.
Well, thank you so much. Those were great questions. It was really fun to answer those
Yeah, people are
questions.
saying, no way, you're in your 50s. And I said, yeah, plant-based, that's what it'll do. Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. And thanks
Oh,
all of
thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you
see.
so much, AJ. Bye, Bailey.
Oh,
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
yeah. Oh, let's just see who's on tomorrow. Let's see. Okay, we have got a wonderful blogger from England named Carly. I would pronounce her last name right, Boudrogue, and she's going to be making a tofu scramble and a smoothie. And she seems like she's a really great person all the way from England. That'll be 11 o'clock tomorrow. And then, oh, Friday, September 11th, an important day, we have the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan, talking about whether or not going to church can make you fat. So hope to see you guys back on the show. Oh, no, you don't have to sit together to get the discount, Pat. It's just explain that, Elizabeth, to get the discount.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to encourage people to bring their friend in too, because it's more fun to do something with a friend, and then you can talk about it during the week and help and support each other. So you just on my website there's one button for purchasing it, and that sends you to my scheduler, and then you find the Becoming Dr. Doolittle description that says join with a friend, and you just buy it there and send me an email with who your friend is so that I know. That's it.
That's great. I'm gonna beg Kathy Fisher to take this class with me. So thanks guys again for watching. If you're in Feel Fabulous Over 40, we will be back in an hour with Dr. Doug Lyle. And thanks again, Elizabeth. Take care.
Thank you so much.